Read margaritas. Read margaritas? Hi guys, my name's Julia. Welcome to Book Time. Today I'm going to be doing the cocktail tag. So I was tagged last week by Charlie Brooke. Her channel's really great and she is really lovely. I'll link it down below. And basically the list is of 10 cocktails as a prompt, and then you talk about the books they make you think of. I'll also link the original tag video down below in the description box. So the first prompt is Sex on the Beach, a book that is steamy. So I don't really have that many steamy books. When you think of steamy, you think of like romance, sex scenes. I don't really read that many romance books. But the book that I did think of was The First Bad Man by Miranda July. This was published in 2015. It's really awesome. If you don't know Miranda July, she is an American writer, musician, artist, performer, installation artist. She's really incredible. She is a filmmaker. That's sort of how she started out. She's really hilarious and interesting and quirky, and this book is all of those things. It's absolutely bonkers, perhaps the craziest book I've ever read. It's very absurd, does have a lot of sex in it. I wouldn't say all of it was steamy. Some of it is steamy in the sense it's like nice and between people who are both enjoying it. The rest of it is more about the main character's sort of fantasy life, and it gets pretty weird. I would definitely say this book is not for the faint-hearted. It is excellent. It's so well written, really bonkers and hilarious. The second prompt is A Bloody Mary, a book with a killer twist. So for that went old school, chose Fight Club. I haven't read this since I was probably like 20 years old, but I absolutely loved it at that age. I loved the film as well. These days I find them both obviously more problematic, particularly in terms of the gender politics, but I still have a real soft spot for this book, I suppose because it was really influential in my reading life and in the subjects I chose at uni. And, you know, I was thinking a lot about gender and violence in literature. I'm still writing about gender and violence in literature in my PhD today, just on different books. So, yeah, if you haven't read or seen the movie, I definitely recommend it. It does have a great twist that maybe it's obvious if you watch it or read it when you're older, but at the time I didn't see it coming and I thought it was excellent. The third prompt is A Pina Colada, a book from a tropical or exotic setting. I don't really like the word exotic because it makes me think of like a place that's considered other, because even people who live in so-called exotic locations like Melbourne, Australia would be exotic to them. So I don't really like the word exotic. Book set in a tropical location. I chose Claire Atkins' Nona and Me. This is a contemporary YA by an Australian writer, and it's actually set in northeast Arnhem Land, which is a very remote part of Australia, right up on the part of it's on the north coast. I don't know if it's tropical or subtropical. I've spent a fair bit of time there. We've got my husband and I have family up there. And this was a really cool book. So Claire Atkins is a white writer, but she spent a lot of time living up in northeast Arnhem Land, in the town of Gove and the nearby Aboriginal community of Yirrkala. Both of those places are very close to each other, but they're very remote. So the closest town is like 800 kilometers away by dirt road. And this is about two girls, one from Gove, which is mostly where the white community is, and one from Yirrkala, which is the Aboriginal community where the Yolngu people live. So known as a Yolngu girl, and it's about their friendship basically, and how various sort of structural forces in society help Rosie, the white girl, think about race. So it's sort of I guess it's about race relations and in the context of the Yolngu people and the white people up in northeast Arnhem Land, told through the story of two girls. It's pretty good, and Claire Atkins actually wrote this under the guidance and encouragement of some of the Yolngu elders, which is really excellent. So she had a lot of Yolngu input in the development, particularly of the Yolngu characters and the language, and I think there's a Yolngu funeral described and things like that. So she's made sure it's very accurate and respectful, and she's done it with people from the Yolngu community who she's close friends with. I wouldn't say the representation is perfect. Like there's some stuff towards the end that I was like, oh, I don't know. Not that it's bad. It's just maybe, I don't know. Made me think about it a bit. But in general, this is really great. The next prompt is a Cosmopolitan, a book with a sophisticated character. For that one, I've chosen Joan Didion's Blue Nights. This is actually not a novel. It's a memoir. But Joan Didion is probably to my mind, one of the most sophisticated people in the world. She's one of my favourite authors, and if I grow up, I'm already an adult, but if I like continue in my life and become, you know, just a tiny bit as sophisticated and cool and stylish as she is, then I'll be pretty stoked, and it's pretty unlikely because she is pretty cool. But this is a memoir that she wrote in recent years about when her daughter died. It happened right after her husband died. So she'd already written another book called The Year of Magical Thinking about her husband dying. And yeah, this is pretty devastating, but it's also great. She's an excellent writer. She was living in New York City at the time she wrote this, so there's a lot of descriptions of New York. So excellent book. She's very sophisticated. The next prompt is Manhattan, a book that left a bitter taste in your mouth. And I don't have a hard copy of this one. It's Purity by Jonathan Franzen. I read this a few years ago when it came out. I think Jonathan Franzen is a really good writer. He's obviously really intelligent, like seriously intelligent, an excellent writer, and, you know, very interested in social commentary. I just didn't like this book. I mean, it was sort of like a page turner, and he's got such a lovely writing style. Like, he is a really good writer, so I wanted to keep reading, and I wanted to find out what happened to the characters. There were heaps of characters, but the gender politics I just found so yucky. I just didn't like the way he represented female characters, and commented on structural sexism as if it affected men as badly as it did women. I don't know. I just didn't like it. The next prompt is A Frozen Strawberry Daiquiri, a book to chill out to. And for that, I've chosen Beautiful Ruins by Jess Walter, which has potentially one of my favourite covers in the whole world. I bought it totally for the cover, didn't know anything about the story, but I loved it. It was a 5-star read. It's just an excellent romp. It's got all these great characters in great settings, so I'll read you the back. The story begins in 1962. Somewhere on a rocky patch of the sun-drenched Italian coastline, a young innkeeper, chest deep in daydreams, looks out over the incandescent waters of the Ligurian Sea and views an apparition, a beautiful woman, a vision in white, approaching him on a boat. She's an American starlet and she is dying. And then the story begins again today, half a world away in Hollywood, where an elderly Italian man shows up on a movie studio's backlot searching for the woman he last saw at his hotel 50 years before. Sounds like a romance. It's not really. There's heaps of other characters involved. So there's the Italian guy, there's another writer, there's this American actress, there's her son. They have all these different storylines, and it's just really fun and great, and like they go through hard stuff and good stuff, but in the end it's kind of like heartwarming, great. I really look forward to rereading this, because to me this is like just a great uplifting read, even though tough stuff happens in it. It's really fun. The next one is Espresso Martini, a book you read late into the night, and for that I chose The Engagement by Chloe Hooper. She is an Australian writer. I read this a few years ago in 2012 when it came out, and I read it in one sitting. I think I stopped reading it at 2 a.m. I started quite late, just read through to 2 or 3 or whatever, because I could not put this down. It's not like it's my favourite book or anything. Like, I don't know, it's probably like a 3.5 star read. Like, it's good, but it's not, you know, mind-blowing. But I don't think I've ever read a book that I could not put down as much as this. Maybe The Hunger Games, like comparable. It's pretty weird. This could have also maybe gone in the steamy section. So it's about a woman who's a real estate agent. She's like pretty bored with her life, and she starts basically sleeping with men who she is showing through the inspections and the houses, and then they start paying her for it, and she's like, oh, okay, I'll start making money. Anyway, eventually one dude says, look, I'll pay you to come away to my country house with me. So they go away to his like Bluestone mansion in Western Victoria. So Victoria's the state I live in. He lives on an old farming estate. But it gets really weird, and like you can't tell if he's kidnapped her or not, and so he's acting like he's kidnapped her and like she's a prisoner, but also like she's free, and she doesn't know if it's a game. She doesn't know if it's part of what he's paying her for to play this role or not, and it gets really weird and creepy, and I just could not put it down. There's so much tension. It's creepy as. So yeah, if you like a page turner, I really recommend this. It was really really addictive. The last cocktail prompt is Cuba Libre, favourite modern classic, and for that it's a bit of fluff. For that, I chose The Big Sleep by Raymond Chandler. I love Raymond Chandler, so he's an American crime writer who was writing in the first half of the 20th century, set in LA. It's like grimy, drug cartels, Art Deco buildings, like palm trees and cool chicks and noir. And I love him. He's like a hard talking detective. So great. Lots of drinking and smoking, and they're just the best. So this is probably my favourite of his own. I really like The Long Goodbye as well. This is just a bit shorter, so you can read it in a quick time. And the movie of this is really awesome. Like the sets are so good. Oh man, it just makes me want to go to LA every time. So if you haven't read him, I recommend him. So great. Oh no, this is the last one. Sorry, I was wrong. So the actual last one is Name Your Own Cocktail and a prompt for it. So I chose a margarita because they're my absolute favourite. I love tequila. And I've chosen A Book for a Hot Night, which is All the Pretty Horses by Cormac McCarthy. He's probably my favourite author of all time, despite all the problems I have with this work. I'm writing my PhD on him. This is probably not my favourite of his. I mean, every single one of his books I give 5 stars. So they're all my favourites, but this is set in Texas and Mexico. It's about young cowboys in the mid-20th century who go horse riding down into Mexico and back again, and why not read it while drinking margaritas? The style is incredible. If you haven't read this, you should. When people ask what Cormac McCarthy book should they start with, I always say this one because even though it is violent, it's nothing like some of his other books, and the characters in this one are really lovely. Like, you really feel for them and you're really rooting for them, and you can't say that for many Cormac McCarthy characters. Most of them are pretty horrible people who you despise. So yeah, this is just a great story. Drink margaritas while you read this. I've got a few people to tag as well. I've got 5 other lovely booktubers. The first one is Mia from Actually Bookish. I'll link all their channels down below. You should check them out. Julie, the Hungry Bookworm. Kirsten from Kirsten's Book Nook. Celebrity Reads Hush. And Select Pages. Check them out, and hopefully they'll do this tag soon as well. If only I could drink a real cocktail, but it's only 9:30 in the morning, so I won't because I need to work after this. Bye.